Welcome back, everyone, to R2Kast number 57. Last week, we were in Canada. Next week, we'll be in the States. But this week, I am about 10, 15 miles away from our guest. So it's really bringing the R2Kast home today. We have someone from Dumfries, and I'm sure if you're in the ag sector and you're in Dumfries, or maybe you're just in Dumfries or in Scotland, you will know of Mr. Colin McKinnon, who we have today. Colin, would you like to say hello?
How you doing, Wallace? Good evening, everyone.
Before we get on into another excellent episode of the R2Kast, I would just like to thank the sponsor for the show today, The Scottish Farmer. A weekly magazine highlighting everything you need to know regarding the Scottish agricultural industry, whether it's breaking news, events happening in the sector, market reports, classified ads, or just wholesome stories happening in the industry. The Scottish Farmer's got it for you.
This is going to be a fun one. Colin has actually introduced me to a group of people once before when I spoke at the Lower Nithsdale dinner, which I still have my little speech for. The first time I ever spoke at an event, and I was petrified. And Colin gave me a nice little introduction, which I got all on film, and he was oblivious that he even got it. But I thought he played up the camera very well, and I'm sure he will do today as well. For those of you that don't know Colin, we'll get into it all as we go. A bit of a young farmer stalwart. Certainly here in the south and west, and known throughout all sides of the agricultural sector down here. I certainly didn't know him before I moved down here, and pretty quickly everyone had mentioned Colin McKinnon. It seemed like some kind of mecca that I must meet this. I'm looking forward to this episode. Sure, we quite good crack. We're both Colin's now too old. We're both in the same young farmers to some extent. But Colin, could you tell us a bit of background about yourself? Are you from a farm yourself?
Yeah, so brought up originally on farm just halfway between Dumfries and Castle Douglas. Dad is a farm worker on Glenkiln Estates, owned by the Keswick family. So I have been here pretty much whole life. Brought up roundabout farm, usual, getting dragged out to do jobs in the farm with dad, whatever else. And then, it's kind of natural progression into young farmers, whatever else. But one thing my parents always push me to do is try and get a trade of some kind. So hence, young boy, love tractors, whatever else. Natural thing, working tractors every day. So that kind of moved me into working with James Gordon's Engineers in Dumfries, local company down here, very well known for selling Claas products along with many other things. So got involved, been through SRUC Barney campus, engineering side rather than agriculture side. So went through my apprenticeship and started back in 2011, and I've been with Gordon's ever since.
So you're definitely proven to be one of these guests that just covers everything. It's great. I love it. I don't have to draw in from a stone. So there's about 4 different things I'm going to unpick there, and it'll probably take the next half hour. Also, I just want to say to those listening, Colin was very rude off camera as he spoke about when he chose to go to Barney. I said, he looked at agriculture, and I said, well, agriculture's got great lecturers. And he said, yes, that was the case before I was there. So that was kind of the farm, Colin, was that a dairy?
So fairly large scale beef and sheep farm, run over, farms, should I say, estate farms. So run, I think it's between 7,000 and 8,000 acres now.
Right.
So I think there's three separate flocks, 2 hill flocks and a low level sheep flock. I think around about 1,000 a head of ewes each. Then cattle numbers, honestly, wouldn't know where to pin it. I think it'll be round about maybe the bottom side of 1,000. Starting to grow a lot of their own grain and things as well. So, kind of going to suckler stage, not really going to finishing, so to speak. So, but the business is developing quite a lot at the moment. A lot of investment going in.
And when you said your dad was managing that, was he in charge of one part?
Well, no, he's not. He's not managing. He is kind of head tractorman, to be honest. Obviously, he does manage a lot of the tractor side of things and whatever else. But Yeah, he's been tracked and he's been here, apart from a 5-year spell, I think it could be near 35, 40 years he's been here. So fairly long term in with the bricks kind of thing. So
knows it quite well.
Yeah, aye. Yeah.
Must be quite a few folk working there then, I take it, over the sort of 3 parts.
Yeah, so is it actually, considering there's probably not that many, but there's quite a substantial part of the business is shooting grouse, a lot of 2 or 3 gamekeepers as well. So well known to you, maybe possibly Heather Murray. She is she comes in self-employed and helps out in the farm as well.
Right.
They've got 3 shepherds, 2 or 3 general farm workers, stockmen kind of thing. So it is a fairly close-knit team they've got, considering the acres there is to work with.
And you said they've got a bit of arable. Is that barley, or is that selling? Is it for used on the farm?
It's for use on the farm, yeah. I think they're both growing spring and winter barley and wheat, yeah. So they've purchased a couple of local farms in the last 2-3 years, and now they're looking to grow a lot more, try to be a bit more self-sufficient going forward. So
is that all like their own kit, or have they got hiring?
Local contractor, sadly not myself yet, but literally there's a guy, the next farm down the road, Craig Harvey, he does a lot of their contracting work for them. So it's kind of on the doorstep. He's got all the kit there. It's they've just probably not got the manpower to go and do stubble kind of things and whatever else. So,
and you've obviously went to Barony, which we'll get into, which you chose, before these dreadful bearded lecturers appeared. Had your family not pushed you down the trade route, could you see yourself being on the farm or not?
To be honest, when I was younger, I did have a spell of working here, kind of on and off, casually doing bits and pieces. Honestly, I think working with my dad, I think it would have ended up badly, very badly. When it comes to work, we're strongly enough minded people would probably end up in far too many fallouts.
It's a thing I've spoke about. I mean, what's this, number 57? I've actually filmed about 60 odd so far. Just
Yeah.
And you speak to a lot of folk like that, and I'm one of them. I wasn't looking at going down the working on a farm route straight away, but my dad and I got on great. As do my mum and I. My mum and I can work together, but Dad and I just have different opinions. It's not a bad thing. It's quite common.
Aye.
It's not something to look down upon or anything like that at all. But you chose to go to Barony. But I feel it's important. Colin probably looks about 10 years younger than me, but he is actually older than me. I know it's hard to believe. But when
27 coming 28.
That's normally how it works.
Yeah. Just close. I was like, well, I'm not 28 yet. I'm not totally over the hill.
So chose to go to Barony. When was that?
I started at the Barony in the summer of 2010 when I was 15. So 4th year leaver, was adamant that's what I was doing. I was like, 3rd year, I think it was middle of 2nd year, 3rd year, I was like, I'm going to Barony, do engineering. That was it.
And
no matter what they said.
It doesn't matter if they say no, you're going. You'll be there for it. There's a lot of different engineering options there. There's full-time engineering, that sort of thing, but you went down a slightly different route. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, so obviously done my introductory year in the NC course, which is a good grounding, and then through many, I think it ended up being about 8 or 9 weeks worth of work experience with James Gordon's, both in Dumfries and their Castle Douglas depot. Pretty much after kicking the door down, they finally gave me a job. I will note, to be fair, they had taken on 2 apprentices the year before, so they were already like two up, but I was like pestered them that much, and to be fair, the guys kind of came back and like, look, we don't want to miss out, we don't want you to go somewhere else. So they offered me a job, and so I started a 4-year apprenticeship, which included obviously going to the wonderful Barony for 4 years.
It's a good place, and that was before. Well, you were probably there for non-SRUC moving into SRUC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was there probably as part. I think probably my second year at the start of a lot of the changeover from what it was before to become an SRUC. So yeah,
it's probably quite an interesting question. That did you, as a very young student, given, notice that change?
I think we did. Even for just being a low-level student, you still notice changes, and you could pick up the vibes off of your lecturers with what everything was going on, and especially probably with the Claas one being so heavily funded, it was a lot of Claas were wondering were they still going to get the same level of student performance, whatever, with the changeover. So it certainly did bring a lot of staff changes throughout the engineering side of things. I think that was just kind of par for the course over a lot of the sectors, to be honest. It was just a change that was going to have to happen. So,
I mean, just by virtue of this podcast and who's on it, I quite often have students that have done agriculture, but could you tell, there'll be a lot of folk listening, and I'm aware of a few people that are sort of interested in the mechanic side as opposed to just general agriculture. Could you tell us a bit about that course, and also the Claas Apprenticeship, what role Claas had in that as well?
Yeah. So when basically, as you start out your apprenticeship course with Claas and SRUC, you were basically, from September onwards, you were basically month on, month off at the Barney. So you had four blocks throughout the winter period. And so you basically do an engine block where you would strip, like, say, a Massey Ferguson 135 engine from nut and bolt, start to finish, to bits, back together again, has to be running. Usually it'd be a customer's, so there'd be a fault with it, and you'd have to sort that as part of the rebuild to basically give you a general understanding of this is an engine, this is what it does, start to finish, and complete a project. So we'd do that, same with gearboxes, and then as it moved on, you started to get on to like grass harvesting kit, combine harvesting kit, your grain preparation, your seeding, your sowing, whatever else, your plows, whatever else. And there's a lot of, general basics, like how to set up this machinery, how, if you're going to have to install a new machine to a customer, how should you be setting that up so that you've got a general knowledge. So that was the way the Barney put it across for those first couple of years. And then as you went up, it started to intensify, which then led to going down to Claas for training courses on specific products. And that started to get fed back into the SRUC and the Barney, where they were getting machines sent up to the college for us to then do diagnosis testing, electrical faults, hydraulic faults that the lecturers would put in, and we'd pretty much be, as a team or as an individual, you'd get sent in at the workshop, right, that tractor has a fault, I want you to tell me what it is, and I want you to sort it and come back to me.
I mean, that's real as it gets for that, really, isn't it?
That, like, realistically, those getting to that stage, all the nuts and bolts, simple stuff's fine, but that's the kind of stuff when you're out in the field that you can't practice for every fault, but it's the method of how to go through it. That's what they were always pushing to us, is how do you work through a fault to not get yourself in a mess and waste hours of time without getting somewhere.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of pressure when that's happening. You've got the farmer sitting, right?
If,
we've got 2 hours to get us off.
If you've got a silage team sitting and you've got 6 or 7 boys there, that could be 400, 500, 600 quid an hour every hour that machine's sitting down. Never mind the weather, whatever else is going on. So it's a challenging job, and I'd like to think the training at the Barney helped put me in the right direction for it. But at the end of the day, getting out in the field and doing it's what really sets you up.
No, I mean, it's good education to get that basis, but as you say, the thing that's once you get, I mean, I think they often say in a driver's test, once you pass your test, right, you can go out and learn to drive now. Like the hard part's done, but
that's the thing. Like, even we found that at the college, once you started to get in that technical stuff in the 3rd and 4th year, we were actually probably bringing back stuff the lecturers didn't realise, like ways of working around stuff, working on the laptops, the computer side of things. we were almost ahead of them, and we were only in there as apprentices, which is a hard thing if you're not in a workshop environment, in a workplace doing it every day. It is hard to keep up with 100%.
Of course. I mean, like from a in Dumfries is going to have the best grass kit there is, but from a arable side, it's going to be, you know, the stuff you're going to be seeing down in England is going to be a different world. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's like, so we had guys come across from the borders even, and like they'd never seen a forage harvester, never seen one, but they would literally work on combines all day long, and could know them front to back. So it's hard to cover everything, but we do have quite a good mix here, to be fair, a really good mix, I would say.
It's about as versatile an area as there is, really.
Yeah,
kind of similar to Ayrshire,
but better.
I knew you were going to say it. It's funny. Colin says that when I was speaking, he said, you know, was from Ayrshire, which I felt I had to join in and say that I was from Ayrshire, but in fact, I'm actually from Arran. We just pretend that, you know, we're part of the Ayrshire group because the commoners then accept us a bit more. you
just have to slang your voice out a little bit more, Wallace, when it gets to that point.
I've just insulted half my demographic there, but oh well, but I can't never hurt anyone.
Exactly.
Well, some kinds, but not that kind. The heading down to Claas must have been quite an experience. Where is that? Where is that based?
So that's based in Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk. So you're about 5.5 hours down a trip in the van or whatever. So. It was quite daunting. The first time we went down, basically a 2-week block, all the boys from college sent down there on our holidays pretty much, and and it's some intense training pretty much straight away, and it's ever since then it just comes second nature, to be honest.
Some pubs frequented, I assume.
The actual, because it was the kind of thing, because we were all apprentices, we didn't travel back up the road for the weekend, so we got to sample the Bury nightlife for the first time. Well, the ones that were actually 18 and the ones that had fake IDs,
which I'm sure none of you did.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I mean, I've never been to the Claas one, but I went to the New Holland one. Is it in Basildon,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're quite an outfit, these places.
Yeah, well, I know Claas have spent a lot of money investing in the last few years, and theirs is really up to scratch with probably any roundabout now, to be honest.
I think you're being paid to say that.
Yeah, I know what it was like before and what it is now, and it's night and day. Yeah.
No, there's some outfits these places. I mean, getting into slightly different things, but the JCB one's got quite an interesting way of working in that they don't actually own anything until they use it. It's quite a business model. But yeah, there's some interesting places out there. But yeah, that would have been a good experience in Dumfries. You know, going to Barony and then suddenly you're going into this, maybe not by the sounds of it, quite state of the art, but certainly very advanced.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely.
And how did that work? Did you just treat that place at the Claas depot as just you had to go and fix this and fix that? Is that how that worked? Or was it set up more, you know?
They had it set up a wee bit more as that. It was they would basically give you a walk through the machine pretty much front to back. They'd have rigs set up with like certain parts like the gearbox. So have that sitting there, take it to bits. This is what's all inside there, and then they'd kind of once you'd got that basic kind of this is the breakdown of the machine, right? Put some faults in it, and now start to tell me what's wrong with it, what's not here, right here and there. And yeah, just general servicing kind of parts where you need to be looking, what to be looking out for, that kind of thing.
So you finished your 4 years, you went through 4 years of apprenticeship. What next? Straight into it, or?
Yeah, literally, it was by the time, even before I'd finished my apprenticeship, I was already in a van out on jobs myself, working away, sorting faults, whatever else. I was pretty much expected to do anything and everything at that point already.
You'd mentioned, Colin, there was two apprentices there as you started.
Yeah.
Did three finish, or did the threes finish or not?
One of the lads left just before he was in his final year, just some changes at home and whatever else. So, and then the other lad, he stayed on, I think, for another year after he finished his apprenticeship, and then actually went out traveling in Australia and got a job out there, and now he's come back and is working as a service rep with Kuhn in the UK. So he's still in the same kind of business, but obviously a lot higher up, probably higher up the food chain, to be honest. So
some of you listening may be unfortunate enough to have Colin on Snapchat. It's quite the entertaining experience, it must be said, whether that's a Sunday at 2 a.m. asking for lifts or whatever, I don't know. But the thing that I was going to focus on is there's quite often a Claas van with some gorgeous views in the background. Now your job now is you've went on from that apprenticeship, and I take it you're full time with Gordon's.
Yeah, full time with Gordon's. So basically the next progression after your apprenticeship, so obviously we talked about going down to training courses, so I'll go probably about an average 4 or 5 training courses every year down at Claas on specific products. And this year I should be finishing what they class as the next step up, which is a master mechanic. So basically that is, I have done all the training courses on that product, so I should be as good a knowledge as anybody on that product. I should be a master mechanic in that product, basically. So
maybe I've picked this up wrong. You started 2010, was it? You must have been there till about 2013, 14. But you're still not an apprentice, obviously, but still going through a training. Yeah,
so there is still, it's kind of based on like an LTA model. So I think like basically you've got your apprentice, then your service engineer, your master mechanic, then like the top level is master technician by that, and that's basically like you are a master mechanic in all those products, and you have to go down, sit an official exam, and then you get I think it's like a 3-hour exam, and then you get 3 totally random faults, could be on any machine you've never worked on before in your life, and you've got an hour in each machine to basically get to a point of telling you, basically get a dummy customer or whatever, and you've got to tell them after that hour what's wrong with that machine.
That sounds insanely stressful.
Yeah. A lot of guys crumble under it. A few guys, like there's a lot of guys, I know I've passed it, but there's a lot of guys who'll go down there, do it 4, 5, 6 times and still not come out of it.
Is it something that you're at master mechanic level? I love these names, by the way. I love these names. It sounds like something I talk about.
I think the courses that I done last year should have got me to. I'm just waiting on the paperwork kind of coming through for it.
Is the goal for you to go to that next level as well?
It probably would be, to be fair. Yeah. I guess.
And how long's that from now?
Honestly, I would put like 2-3 years in it, I would say, depending on everything else going on.
For sure, which there is a lot. Which we will get into. But let's say I'm just interested, because I mean I don't know how well you know this about me, Colin. You know enough about me, but I don't think you know this. I can barely tell you the difference between a grease gun and a tractor. You know, like you've either got that kind of mechanical sense about you, or you don't. It's just one of them things, isn't it? I have this desire. I'm like, I want to be that person. And I'm like, I'm going to change my brake light. No. Yeah. It's just not a skill that I have, so fair enough. But let's say you go down that next line. Was it master technician?
Master technician, yeah.
Brilliant name. Once you're there, what's next? Do you just do anything with Claas then? Would you look at staying where you are in Dumfries, or would you go and try different places? You know,
I think probably outside factors for my work would probably always keep me there. Whether there was an opportunity to progress within Gordon's, be someone I'd probably look at. But at the moment, I see my worth as what position I'm at, and I've got a good base of customers that are very involved with me and with that rely on me quite a lot as well. So it's something I would certainly, I'm happy enough to, at the kind of level I'm at just now, it's good. I do enjoy it. There's a lot of satisfaction out of the job, to be honest.
I can imagine that. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, with high stress, things normally comes.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And you said sort of outside factors. I assume that main outside factor is contracting.
Between that and young farmers, yeah, I would say, yeah. The contracting has become much more of an outside factor than I think even I ever thought it would be, to be honest.
Did you see it becoming what it is now? You know, and tell us. Right. Okay. Yeah.
So, COVID obviously hit everybody in different ways. Obviously, basically, what had taken up all my spare time beforehand, young farmers, pretty much ceased to exist just about. Honestly, like that first year, it was next to nothing, minimal at all. So, a lot more spare time in my hands, probably a daft notion and a wee bit of money sitting in my bank was kind of, it was one of them things. It's like, you always thought as a wee boy, I was like, I always want my own tractor, always want my own. It's like, never owned our own farm or anything, never had our own kit, that kind of thing. So I was like, you know what, always fancied buying an older tractor. So that was, back in May 2019, 2019? Yeah, when the first tractor was purchased online off Facebook.
Was it?
Blind, totally blind. The guy sent us some videos of it down. A really nice guy, Mark, up in Turriff. Seen it on Facebook. It was exactly what I was looking for. We had one in the yard, just exactly the same. And it wasn't ridiculously priced. And I was like, you know what? Just go for it. Yeah. Couldn't go look at it because of COVID. I was like, I'm not gonna get caught by the police driving to Turriff to look at a tractor. I've not really got a reasonable excuse to do that, to be honest. So,
there's two things that are springing to mind. First off, it kind of makes sense because it's Claas, you know the ins and outs of it, yeah. But the thing that's quite mental there is, what sort of clientele did you have from a contracting perspective at that point?
Absolutely none.
That's what I was going to say. I was quite certain that was the case.
Yeah.
You could say that's quite mental.
Nothing. Yeah.
And now you would know a lot of people through, folk that you're working with, like Gordon's and that, of course, but they probably either have the kit because you're currently working on their kit, or you're working on someone who's working for them. How did you go about building up that base then?
Honestly, the way contracting's went the last few years, and it's going more and more so that way, customer farm demands and what contractors have available to meet those demands is becoming even further stretched. And that means as soon as there's a dry spell, people are screaming for tractors and people to go. They can't, first of all, they can't get people to drive them. The next thing, they struggle to get enough tractors to actually fulfill all the jobs they need to do. And then the actual rising cost of what a new tractor costs is getting to the point where it's cheaper to get a contractor or somebody else to come in and do it than have your own, like pay for your own. Especially in Dumfries and Galloway, where I know compared to a lot of other areas in the country, the contracting rates are a lot lower than elsewhere.
Contracting wise, I'm coming from Arran, right? There's two really.
Yeah.
There is hundreds here. Now I know there's a massive market for them, but like Watsons are massive. From what I understand, Harpies are pretty big. I think Cowans are quite big. I think there's, and I've probably missed 20 names there.
Yeah.
Every half kilometre you go on the road, you bump into another tractor or two or three. You've jumped into a flooded market, but obviously it was there. And I take it over COVID, you've bought it in May, so you've got the sort of summer season. I think you've sort of in with silage trailers would be the first one. Is that right? Or
literally that was the first year. A lot of it was just silage trailer work. Just grab a silage trailer, go. Weekends, holidays, literally any space. Like I'd seen me would finish at work at 4 or 5 at night and just go jump to the tractor and go help somebody for a few hours. But it was the kind of thing, people were seeing me every day coming into work and they seen the tractor sitting there like, you free tonight? You free this weekend? What are you doing? I'm just like, well, it's COVID. There's nothing else happening. So literally the first year, everything was done. Everything I'd done myself. I don't think anybody. I never hired in any help to do anything that first year. It was just literally me and the tractor, and as long as I could keep it going, I'd go out and work.
No, good on you. And here, kudos for jumping in like that. I mean, I didn't realise just quite how much you jumped in. Pretty much nothing.
To be honest, a lot of people said I was crazy, but what the money, like, it's a 2006 tractor. It's like 14, 15-year-old.
Yeah.
At that point, the money tied up in it was compared to going, it'd like a 20% of what a new tractor would be. So realistically, it was fairly low. If you look at it in a contracting sense, it was a fairly low risk.
Yeah.
Like I had budgeted it so I could go out and do like 2-3 days a month, and that was going to cover me. But like I was going out and doing like 2-3 weeks a month.
Yeah.
Like in good spells. So I was like, well, that it could sit all winter, and realistically what it's costing me, I'm going to cover my costs fairly easily. So
and just for reference, and I assume this is something you'll know, Colin, maybe it's not, but I'm not up on this. What sort of money are you looking for a brand new, let's say, 150 horsepower tractor?
Probably the way things are just now, a reasonable spec one. You're not straight out the box, out the factory. You're probably not going to be far off £100,000.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. You start to get a lot of the guys you're seeing run about contractors, 200 horse tractors. So they are the top side of 100,000 quite easily.
Yeah. That's
so
a lot of money.
you can see me with my little 20,000 grand tractor. But at the end of the day, as a lot of this is always what I go with. I'm charging the same money per hour as what they are for hauling a silage trailer.
Yeah, of course you are. It's the same job.
It's like a quarter of the price, but it's still managing to do the same job. So why should I charge any less?
Yeah, exactly.
So realistically, I've got breakdowns and things to worry about, but the initial cost's a lot lower and the risk's a lot lower as well.
And that was, we're in August 2022, so it's just over 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Where is McKinnon Ag Contracts now?
We have just completed signing up for tractor number 3.
Which is a what?
Claas Apprenticeships 650.
Right.
So I've now got 2 of them. And the old tractor's still living and kicking at the moment as well. So basically this again, last year, with some pretty good help from Gordon's, I took the plunge after getting some fairly reasonable guarantees about work to buy the first Claas Apprenticeships 650 through Gordon's on a kind of hire to buy kind of deal. So we'd done a lot of work last summer. Aaron came on board with me, self-employed, fair enough, not with me every single day of the year, but a lot of work through the summer, helping local contract like Drew Watson, you've mentioned, GTR, King and Farms, Craig Harvey, a lot of subcontracting to contractors rather than direct to farm, so to speak. But those guys have been really good to work with, have really kept us going. Obviously we've done a lot of work with SRUC last winter, which also helped as well. And yeah, again, it came at kind of springtime this year. The demand was there. things kind of came into line with workers. So Murdo's came on board quite a lot this year as well. So this summer, probably from May up until now, there'll have been 2, if not 3 tractors out near enough every day throughout the summer. It's only really when the wet weeks had been a wee bit quieter, but even then there's always been one. I don't think there's been a week where there's not been at least one tractor out all week.
Well, I'm going to ask 2 questions here, and one of them I'm going to embarrass myself hugely, I'm sure. But first off, the Arian 650s, is that about 180?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're not small tractors. Yeah, they're quite notable tractors. Yeah. And how many days a year will they be working, roughly? Obviously, your summer.
Well, but I would take it rather as days in terms of hours those tractors are clocking up.
Yeah.
Like the tractor that Aaron drives, the first one I got last year, would do 2,000 hours in a year.
Right.
So, and then the second one I would say is probably going to do 1,500 hours a year as well. And the old one, it'll maybe get 400 or 500. So you're talking about 4,000 hours worth of work a year.
Sure, yeah.
They're going to do. And that's just clock hours on them.
Aye, that's 2,000 hours will be roughly what, 80 full 24-hour days, roughly.
Yeah,
it's a fair
I would say like you factor in the winter, they're probably at least Aaron's track to be working every second day of the year.
Yeah,
the other one maybe a bit less, but again, that's just going to be a case of filling in the gaps, to be honest.
And in the summer, it'll be carting silage, carting grain, raking, whatever. What does the winter time look like?
The winter time looks a bit more. We have been involved a bit with forest roads, forming. Done a bit of that. Obviously, slurry jobs here and there with local farmers, and hopefully again this year we can work with some feeding contracts as well. Mm-hmm. So we're supplying tractor and then using customers' feeder to cover holidays, staff shortages, whatever else.
That's quite a niche job, that, is it not? Because you're going to have to get used to a completely different system all the time. It's not just, jumping in my village trailer is always pretty similar, but doing that is always...
It is a lot more technical. It is probably... It requires a lot more brain work.
Aye.
Like, you can't just switch off. It's not just a monotonous task, and it's something I like to hope we could get involved with again, because it was a really good thing to get involved with, and I was very grateful for the opportunity to do it, because it is basically, it covered our winter months, to be honest, last year. So
I hope you've kicked your feet up and got comfy and enjoying another fantastic episode of the R2Kast with another really interesting guest. I would just like to quickly take another second to plug the sponsors of the show today, the Scottish Farmer, and I would strongly advise you to go out and pick one up this week and see even more of the fantastic people that are in our industry.
So just trying to fit sort of a day in the life of Colin McKinnon. I mean, you've got Aaron Murdo there, and I'm sure John Austin will be in tears that you haven't mentioned him.
I mean, he's only recently joined the party, so I was saving him for when we're really in the glory days.
Yeah, well, this is it. And John, if you're listening, thank you very much. We're filming this on the 15th of August. You took me to the hospital 2 nights ago, so thank you. It was kind of I don't know what I'd do without you. Even if you did hit every bump you could possibly see, which I think was intentional. But you've got those guys out all the time. How often are you in a tractor at this time of year? Because you are working full time.
Honestly, it kind of depends. This year probably has been a bit less. I'll probably be getting 2, 3, 4 days a month at the moment.
Right, yeah.
But a lot of that is covering those guys' holidays, covering when they're needing time off, giving them a chance to have some time at home with their families, whatever else. Murdo's got quite a young family at home. Aaron's always got a girlfriend and dog at home. So, like, I try to be as look, if you can have an afternoon off and I can sit in the tractor, I'm quite happy.
Yeah.
If that gives you guys a chance to, if that's going to keep you guys happy and keep you guys motivated, then I'll make a point of trying to do it 100%.
What a manager. What a fantastic guy. What a boss to have you are. No, well, here, fair play. You know, you're working full time. You're obviously working quite near the top of the sort of abilities there, Colin. Good stuff in itself. And then now you've set up this contracting business from nothing very quickly.
Yeah.
You've just signed up for number 3. When do you think we'll be seeing number 4?
I'd like to think we'll be. It'll be probably some. If it was going to be another one, it would be something for a play toy for me again.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I can't see me. I think managing 2 members of staff coming on 3 is probably enough. Like it gives you enough headaches on those days the guys are busy and whatever else anyway. So
are they both self-employed or are they?
Yeah, so they're both self-employed. So Murdo's got his own kind of tree surgery business he works away with as well. So obviously summertime it kind of works all right, and through the winter he's always got stuff going on. Aaron works for a few local farmers as well through the winter. So it's the kind of thing they aren't totally reliant on me giving them work every single day of the year, which works for both.
Excellent. Yeah,
very
much easier for yourself as well, not having to do.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing when we go quiet, a lot of contractors are still kind of, oh well, have you even got a guy that could sit in a tractor for a day or whatever else, and I can just kind of send them, let them deal with it, and it's still keeping a customer. It's making it look as if I'm making an effort to at least try and help their business keep going, so they come back to you. Oh well, I could do with the tractor now, so we'll offer that. So.
You said that you bought a tractor May 2020, which was May 2020 was about 2 weeks after we thought our 2-week holiday was going to finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, literally, yeah.
God, when you look back at it like that, Jesus, what a time it's been. But you said that the other things you would have been doing was young farmers, and you've went quite quick. Well, not quickly, I don't know, but it certainly went up the ranks in young farmers. It's Lower Nith you started with, and now moved on to sort of higher things, which we'll get into in a minute. But a lot of people listening will be at that age. I think my main demographic is sort of like 16 to 21. They're looking to get into farming, a lot of people, and young farmers is one thing that I've said a few times, but the thing that I can't really do is talk about it because I've joined Lower Nith Steel at 25, which is about a year and a half I've got left. But here, I've loved it. It's been great fun. Really enjoyed sort of the panel night I was invited to.
Yeah.
The guest speaker, all that sort of jazz, and all the different things that we've done. So I've really enjoyed it from that perspective, but it's not like I'm needing to find a way into farming anymore. I think I'm there.
Yeah, you're fairly well covered.
I think I'm in the industry enough now, I think. But there's certainly people that are looking to find a way in, and some of these people are from farms, and I think it's important to mention some of them aren't from farms.
Yeah, definitely.
Could you start, before we sort of get into your life in young farmers, Colin, talk about young farmers and how it can bring folk into the industry, or even just young farmers?
Yeah, honestly, it's coming probably, I think Lower Nith Steel are maybe in quite a lucky position. Being based round about Dumfries, a lot of our actual catchment area is Dumfries, so something we've certainly developed over the time that I've been in the club and involved with committees is bringing people in that aren't quite, obviously, as you say, not off a farming background. They literally, for other sense, have been brought up in the town, and apart from maybe a school visit now and again, haven't really done much or been involved. And to be honest, like, a lot of it is just, we find, you can promote it. We love to promote it as much as we can, but a lot of it is through friend groups and, you've got a friend that goes to young farmers. So you get them, they're like, right, come along, even just see what you think of it. Come along to a stock judging, a sports night, whatever else. Meet everybody, catch up with people. A lot of it is like-minded people, but they've just got a farming interest as well. And a lot of it stems from that. They come out, they do a stock judging, or they come and do a cattle dressing, dairy dressing, sheep dressing, whatever else. It's like, I've never been on a farm before. I've never done anything with cattle. I've never been near a cow or anything, never judged any cows. And then it starts to snowball. And then, and a prime example, I know a prime example of a boy who went from working as a car mechanic to is now fully fledged in the dairy industry, has a job through it. And he'll probably open them. A lot of that was through young farmers. And there's a lot of cases that we've had of that where people have got involved in young farmers that have had no background, and it's led to them getting careers in farming. And that is probably one of the most satisfying things through young farmers that we've found.
When did you start, Colin? What age did you start at?
So I think I started the same year I started at the Barney, so back in 2010.
You were 15-ish.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, it's something I would give out as advice to a lot of young farmers. I very much enjoyed the social and the sports and the event side of things for probably till I was about 2021. I was like, very much go along, meet friends, not get too, as much as I love to promote getting involved with committees and whatever else, at the end of the day, I was very much a social member for the first 5-6 years I was in Young Farmers, and I really did enjoy it and got to make a lot of friends out of it. But it kind of got to that point 5-6 years in, I was like, you know what, I actually want to give something back to the club now. I want to try and make a difference. And literally, I just started, I think when I was 20 or 21, I started as just a sports convener. So literally organising our Sunday night sports, which is you've been yourself. It's just about a catch up and a laugh. There's nothing serious about it. Find out what the gossip is for the weekend and whatever else. But it's a way to socialise. It gets everybody together. It is, that's kind of where it started, to be honest.
I think my story with the Sunday night sports, I was never allowed back. I went once. Were you there that night? I can't remember.
I think so.
I think you were. I can't remember anyway. But John Marshall, myself, and Perry, with the average age is about 27. So we're probably just really holding on to being allowed to be there. But we're mucking about a ball, and I backheeled the ball and just broke John's nose and gave him a black eye. And then about 2 minutes later, we're playing. I was going to say playing brownies. That's not what we're playing rounders. And I smacked this ball and just about took Lauren Nelson out. And then 2 minutes later, she was batting and I caught her out. So it felt like I had some kind of target to ruin the rest of our sports night. But deep down, it was a really good. It's great crack. But a really good place, sports convener. It's almost one of those sort of positions that you make so someone can get into a committee. But it's brilliant for that. Brilliant for that. And then I think you moved on up.
Yeah. So it was the kind of thing. It's like as I say, you probably don't think much of it as a sports convener, but that kind of simple thing, starting to organise teams, organise people, like it's amazing how many events we actually ended up going to. There's SAYFC wise, we were going to like football events right across the West region, hockey events right across the West region, national rugby events, like volleyball, netball tournaments, like starting to organise teams for that, getting people involved. You kind of have to push yourself to speak to a lot of different people and get involved. So it was that kind of first initial step to, starting to climb up the tree, to be honest. But it was a really enjoyable year, and we had a lot of success that year, which made it all feel worthwhile as well. So,
and what was next after that for you? Did you jump into treasury or what?
Yeah, so again, it was assistant treasurer, which I wasn't really that sure on, but I kind of was like, right, we'll make the step. Realistically, I was down in the committee roles. I was to look after, keep in charge of the club's alcohol stock.
Okay,
and organise for bars and events through the year to make sure we had everything for going forward, and then obviously help treasurer with any treasurer stuff that came up throughout the year as well. Taking money at gate takes, which again, something I'd obviously done admin and things at school and whatever else, but the actual sitting doing number crunching end of year accounts, simple stuff like that. Like, it was something I'd never really been fair involved with apart from bits and pieces at school, but it was actually really, really useful for going forward into what I am now. Like for my, like a lot of my young farmers stuff I carried into my contracting business when I started it up, for like making accounts, keeping tabs of receipts, things like that. Simple stuff.
Keeping alcohol.
Yeah. Obviously with Lower Nithsdale obviously being like SAYFC clubs being registered charities, like we're obviously getting audited by Oscar, and like the accounts have to be on the money, like down to the last pence, or it's not going to be right. So with likes of Louise to keep me right, Louise Patterson, the saint of Treasury and Young Farmers, I've seen me and her sitting at her house till 11, 12 o'clock at night to find 10 pence in a set of accounts. But it is, for all it seems silly and it was so frustrating at the time for setting us up going forward, absolutely brilliant. So useful.
I mean, bloody brilliant skills to learn. You know,
it is. Yeah. It's like you don't think anything of it at the time, but actually as a life skill, it's for all, like you can imagine when you say treasurer to anybody that's coming on a committee, they just kind of run away from it. Like they're scared of it. It's like, it sounds like a terrible, terrible job unless you're interested in accountants. But at the end of the day, it's a life skill that is so useful. So useful going forward.
And just a quick shout out to Louise. I'm sure she is the saint you say she is, Colin, but I still do not forgive her for the fact she got in touch with me to come onto that panel night. And her message was, it said, remember this perfectly, you'll just be asked questions about your career and your past academic experience. I will quickly bring up one question from that panel. Who on the panel has spent the shortest amount of time in a house they've just bought with their girlfriend before they broke up?
Yeah,
so thanks for that, Louise. That was kind of you, to be honest, on that one.
She's a saint the rest of the time, honestly.
Yeah. Moved from a vice treasurer, I assume, onto treasury, and then was it straight into vice captaincy after that?
Yeah, it was. The way things worked, I kind of did a spell in treasury, just with some movements around the committee, and then came on as John, our good friend, Mr. Austin's assistant, vice chairman, and Louise was secretary at the time as well, which was actually in the club's 75th anniversary year. So it was a really big year for the club, and it was really good to be involved in that as well.
I think you're wearing the 75th anniversary thing.
We've got the merchandise on, yeah.
Who, I've meant to ask you this a few times, who done that? Because they must have been a Chelsea fan, because that is just a Chelsea badge.
Ross, one of our past chairs, Ross Mayer, in his year as chairman, he decided he wanted to get us new football kits. And this is when the badge was developed, all to his taste.
I think he is a Chelsea fan then.
Absolutely, yeah.
The I see a lot of students wearing it, obviously, and I'm like,
yeah,
I'm wearing Chelsea hoodies, and then I realise,
yeah.
So what does chairing a young farmers club involve?
So many things you probably never ever think of. So many things. Realistically, at the start of it, you are there to be the face of the club. Yep. You are the focal point of contact. You are the representation of that club at all times. A lot of helping organise events, speaking to hosts, and again, engaging with members as well. You've got to be approachable to them. Like if you've got new members coming in, you've got to be as approachable as you possibly can and try and showcase what Young Farmers is all about and what opportunities there is, to be honest.
Well, you're being approachable to a demographic of 13 years.
Yeah.
Completely different backgrounds. It's quite versatile.
Yeah. You do, it does take a lot of skill, but if you can get on with the young ones are what probably makes your year a success, because as you can imagine, they come into Young Farmers and they're all keen as mustard. They're brilliant. They want to try everything, go to everything. And it's just basically you just have to try and facilitate for as much as possible for what they're wanting to do.
And one thing that since I've joined, I've went to however many things, 7 or 8, I can't believe how often there's something on.
Yeah.
Like Elspeth and Natasha and Ed and whoever are always posting in that chat saying like, this is this week, this is this week.
Mm-hmm.
I never realised it was that. I mean, when we did Young Farmers in Arran, I was chairperson, secretary, treasury, all for like 18 months. And we arranged a few things, but it's like, it must be about 50 odd things a year. Like it's
intense. Honestly, it becomes as much of a job as your own job at times. Yeah, it does. And I've been very lucky. Gordon's have always supported local young farmers throughout D&G and the West, and they're always very understanding that I work the hours, I make up the time if I need a way to do a young farmers event, but even they've been very good with sponsorship and whatever else as well, and they have supported me.
Their name on your arm?
Gordon's in the arm, and then Murray Farm Care on the other side. But it is good to see there is so many local companies that will put money into young farmers and support them wherever they can. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these companies realise this is their next customer base. Like 10, 15 years time, that's going to be the customers they're having to deal with. So
and staff members, yeah,
absolutely. Exactly. Aye, that's it. There's so many opportunities that way. So,
and one thing I wanted to say when I brought you on was probably one of the first few times I met you was you were obviously chairperson through COVID of Lornith. You guys put on a concert, and I think you were only one of 2 in the region, or 3 in the region, or something like that.
I think there was us, and then 2 others, Crossroads, and
was it Annandale?
No, it was us, Crossroads, Beath, and Mauchline.
Right, I thought there was
3. No, it was just the 3 Ayrshire ones and us. And that was the most stressful thing.
Well,
the thought of we were like 2 or 3 months into practices, and then that was when we had our kind of Christmas lockdown, and our concert was meant to be mid-January, so we were pretty much losing.
Was it February in the end?
Yeah, we made the call. We're like, you know what, we're in deep. We're going to make this work.
Well, the thing I was going to say was, whether it was stressful or not, it worked, because I went to it, and some of my students were in it, and they were like, "Oh, are you going?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, oh God, I can't face you seeing some of it." It was brilliant. It was just good fun, and I'm gonna almost call out Ayrshire Young Farmers here, and we've got Jane Strawhorn on in a few weeks. I'm sorry for this, Jane, but the one thing I struggled with Ayrshire Young Farmers was I thought it was almost too intense. It was like a job. Whereas the thing that I've really enjoyed about Lower Nithsdale is it's very much ran well, but there's also but you're here to have a good time. And that concert was proof of that. It was brilliant. You just had a good laugh. There was the odd thing that was said wrong, and everyone just had a giggle about it. The audience were just as much a part as the show, as the actual thing. And it was brilliant. And we don't need to get into karaoke that happened that night, but it was
absolutely not. Sorry, Wallace, you weren't the worst one in karaoke and hole in the wall that weekend.
Which is quite impressive.
Very,
very impressive, actually. Erin McElwraith, I think, for some reason, was expecting me to be a good singer, and it's just not what you should be expecting, especially given her singing performance, which, by the way, was very good. I thought that concert was brilliant. So well played to all involved. And John Austin, you were a naughty boy in that concert. It was that was one of the funniest things I have seen on stage in my life. Amazing. He had told me, it was like, "Oh, my moment's coming later on," and I was like, what's it gonna be? It lived up to it.
It was very much worth it.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And that was really the first time I knew you were a contractor, because you mentioned it in the thing.
Several times.
Just about every time you spoke.
Yeah.
Was that just an advertising opportunity?
Absolutely. I was like, I'm chairman. Literally, if I can't advertise my own business at this point, what can I do?
It shouldn't be Gordon's. It should be McKinnon had contacts on the back on the side. Yeah, no, that was very good. But what was chairing young farmers? I've asked you what chairing is like, but what was it like during COVID? Because I mean that must have been hard.
It was tough. We, as probably everybody did, very much got accustomed to Zoom very, very quickly. The first 6 months, we pretty much everything had to be over Zoom. Everything. To be fair, we've done quite a few things. We've done like a new members night on Zoom with some games. We've done a quiz night. We've done like a bacon demo night as well. We had like a few talks from people as well. We've done a health and safety meeting through the Yellow Welly Foundation, whatever else. So,
yeah.
Like, we managed to keep it going. We've done a lot of like competitions with like photo competitions and like, you know, how everybody was doing their videos with pass the toilet roll and all that kind of stuff. Like, we've managed to keep members involved and keep it lively. And to be honest, our membership was still pretty high, pretty good, considering we had very little physical events to put on for everybody. And even that first year, actually, probably my highlight and something we've carried on since then was the fact that I managed to, our first probably big physical event was managed to put our tractor run on in Dumfries. It was that kind of thing. I'd always wanted to do one, obviously my background, whatever else. It was fairly simple really to organise, and I was like, what can we do in COVID where we can get a whole load of people together but keep them isolated as well?
Yeah.
Here's an idea, put them all on a tractor and let them drive around the countryside and see everybody.
How many tractors do you have?
We got 100.
I was going to say, was it not 101?
Yeah.
Was it for some reason?
Yeah, I think basically both years because we've done it again this previous year and we got 100 again. So, but it was just the kind of thing. Everybody was so glad to get out, and yeah, we raised a lot of money for charity for the Glencairn wards, just local in Dumfries that year. So they were really grateful for it, and it was great publicity for the club. It was all over Scottish Farmer Standards, all over Facebook. So
yeah,
yeah, it was really good for us, good publicity, and good to get an event under our belts, to be honest, considering everything that was going on. So
when I came along to that new members night, panel night, I don't know how many folk would have been in the room, probably about 50-ish.
Yeah, I think it was top side of 50, yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't hundreds, but I mean, 51 of them were there to see Cammy Wilson, I'm sure, but it was, I remember going to that and thinking, oh, this is a decent sized club. But then we went to the dance, and there was like 140 folk there. Now, I know they weren't all members, some of them were triple age, but they weren't all members for sure. But you mentioned, I think it was like 80 folk were members. I didn't realise just how big Lower Nith was. I mean, that must be, yes, it's not as big as the Ayrshire ones, but that must be as big as some of the bigger ones.
Yeah, I would think we'll be probably in the top 10 in the West, I would say. Yeah, I think between us and Stranraer, I think we'll be just about the biggest club in D&G at the moment. But when I started back in 2010, the club would be maybe 25, 30 members.
That's
so
impressive.
It really has taken a big hike up, probably in the last 5-6 years. I think probably around about, it was when Billy Hiddleston and Katie Austin were chairman and secretary, it took a huge hike up that year, and then ever since then it's just built year on year on year, and
that's mentally quick, actually.
Yeah, we've built something up really, really good, so we have.
And you've now jumped on from Lower Nith. You are notably big time in the young farmers now. So what's your role now, Colin?
So I am now this year chairman of the district of Dumfries and Galloway, and alongside that I am now the vice chairman for the West region for Scottish Young Farmers as well.
Who does West region cover?
So West region covers Dumfries and Galloway, Ayrshire, Lanarkshire and Clyde Central District. So Stirling, basically right across to West Renfrew, and that includes Butte as well.
Right, okay, yeah. And now I've asked you as you go sort of what each involves. Now I assume this is a lot more, maybe not more, but more responsibility. What's involved now? As you're vice chair. I've got the right thing here. Jane's chair, where you're vice chair. That's, yeah. So what's you guys' job there?
So basically, our role is to oversee all the districts within the West region. Obviously, like with myself being involved with Dumfries and Galloway, we've got, to start with, the 6 clubs in Dumfries and Galloway. We've got Stranraer Rins, Mackers, Stuartray, Lauren Estdale, and Dale and Thornhill.
Yeah.
So basically, we work as a district. Everybody comes together for district events, and quite often those district events are qualifiers for the West region. So likes of our beef dressing, likes of our football, hockey, volleyball, likes we've got our talent spot competition, speech making, these kind of things. So they are run as West events. So we have obviously me and Jane have a duty to try and work with all the districts and be basically a focal point for any concerns, any questions, anything they might need. Basically, we are seen as the point of contact with it, along with the SAYFC staff, to try and help them and help their clubs develop to promote young farmers as much as they can. So, it's a lot more meetings, a lot more getting out to. But for me, I've really enjoyed it, getting out to meet a lot of different people from different areas of the country and actually see how a lot of different clubs work. Because as you mentioned, the way Ayrshire works compared to Dumfries and Galloway is totally different. Same with Lanarkshire and Clyde Central. It's good to get a different perspective on things, and I've really enjoyed it so far this year.
And I feel like I have to ask this question. I say that as if it's going to be a weird question. It's not a weird question. So next year you'll be chair. Do you plan on trying national vice chair?
No, not. I very much doubt it. It would have to be a very much change of heart, but West was also a very much a change of heart as well.
Well, that's what I was going to say, yeah.
I think Jane would probably murder me if I went on to be her vice, but anyway.
I'm sure she wouldn't.
She's not murdered me yet this year, but as much as I've tried. But no, to be fair, Jane is somebody really good to follow. Her knowledge of young farmers is like second to none. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Literally any young farmer's question you can think of, Jane will have an answer, and if she doesn't have an answer, she'll be back to you within a day with the answer to that question. One of the most organised people I've ever met, but as I say, it's great. It's a great example to follow for what to aspire to be, and she's doing a fantastic job.
Jane is national vice chair at the minute, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's quite something. I mean, I wasn't ever against young farmers. It's not the term at all. I tried to start one, but I didn't. When I was at uni almost did the young farmer stuff. Yeah, there was the going out and all that. So I just didn't do it. There was boys in our class, David Smith, Craig Hamilton, and probably others, David Mitchell, Fraser Kennedy, that did.
Yeah.
It was just our thing was more the uni side, and that was fine. And I didn't really get it, but now I've joined it, and I'm too late to go through all the office bearerships, and also I wouldn't even consider it because it wouldn't be fair on those that are working up towards it. But it's brilliant how much you can get out of it. And if you are listening, and you're still with us, and you've enjoyed Colin's story and the sort of young farmers is something you're looking down, take Colin as an example as to what you can get from it. You can learn how to bookkeep. As boring as that might sound, you're not going to join to do that. You're going to join to go to the driving range, to get steaming, to do all that stuff. But you're also going to learn all this sort of jazz as well. It's really important. And the working up the office bearer ranks is brilliant. I mean, it's almost like not a job, but a job progression. And
No, absolutely. There's a lot more even for by that I've got out of it. Opportunities I would never go from anywhere else. Like, so that the international travel things, exchanges and things I've been on, like Colorado for 6 weeks through Young Farmers. Absolutely amazing. One of the best trip of my life without a doubt. And even like, so the next year I went down to Wales just in exchange, got the Wales show during exchange. It was like, there's opportunities you probably wouldn't get to see things from a different perspective through traveling. And even this year I done what they call as a cultivated leaders course. So a business orientated course run through the agri affairs side of Young Farmers. So reps from RBS, Galbraith's, Azets, the accountants, like top level business. Like we were dealing with I think there's Roddy McKenzie, like RBS, pretty much as high as you can go. And he's coming in to speak to Young Farmers about accounts and business and family planning. Heather Wildman's the one that runs that course. So obviously you know she's absolutely brilliant. Like the whole progression, succession planning, whatever else. And like this is put on as a course for Young Farmers. Like this, you can apply to it. That's all there for you if you want it. It's just about taking the opportunities.
It's funny you mentioned Heather Wildman there. I think they've got the right person here. But when you asked me to that thing, I was like, "Who's done it before?" And just me, 25-year-old fool from Arran. Louise is like, "Oh, Heather Wildman." I think it was Andrew McCormick, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
Did you send it to the wrong person? Like, what is happening? You mentioned speech making earlier. I've got 2 years left. I'm genuinely debating trying it.
I would honestly, Wallace. I think you'd be amazing at it.
Have you done it?
Yeah, last year, as part of my last chairman years, Lauren, if Louise pretty much told me I had to do it.
And
I didn't get an option.
Do you choose what you talk about, or are you told?
Depending on the format of what year it is, you can, and kind of like the usually, like, so probably what for senior especially, usually you'll get topics, and you'll have to choose a topic to pick. Like you'll turn up on the day, have to pick a topic off a sheet, and then discuss it. Probably argue it between you, or you could have a panel of 3 totally different clubs members. You've got a chair to chair the meeting, chair the debate, and then the 3 of you argue the points for or against what it is, and it could be literally anything. It could be farming topics.
So fun.
It is. Once you get into it, it's just a pressure cooker situation. But if you're confident in yourself speaking, it's so worth it. And a lot of people do say speech making is Young Farmer speech making is one of the best things as a life skill going forward.
Well, it's essentially my career.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm confident enough at it. But I do also want to get involved in concert this year, and I'm gonna tell you live on the R2Kast that Crossroads have been trying to poach me. So
They wouldn't have enough fun for you, Wallace. I'm sorry.
Oh, I tell you, this is it.
I mean, they've already started practicing.
And what's insane? Like,
yeah,
fair play to them. It's ran.
They are ridiculously organised. So
impressive.
Fair play to them.
Here, Colin, it's been great to chat. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. We've spoke for an hour and a quarter. I don't know if it feels like that. But it's been great to sit down and have a chat with someone who I know quite well, but never actually really spoke to. And as I said to you at the start, it's always quite embarrassing when you do this with someone you know, especially when you're doing the thing. You're sort of, anyone that's listening, if you've been on an R2Kast before, you'll know it. If you haven't, I just sort of chat like this before we kick off. And then it's like, welcome back. And it's so tragic doing it in front of someone.
Yeah.
Already know. But there's 2 questions I end every single podcast with. One of them is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And second is, if you had any tips for folk coming into farming, what would they be?
Where do I see myself in 5 years? Hopefully moved out of mum and dad's house for a start. So in my own house, because if I stop buying tractors, I'll maybe buy a house.
Yes.
Contract and settled, still happy at work, and I'll be retired from Young Farmers by that point.
Well, you could. Oh no, you couldn't still be chair of national. No.
Nah. Let's not even contemplate it. Yeah, I would say I'd still like to be involved in some capacity. I don't think I'll ever escape it altogether, but
yeah,
I'll be that old guy just kind of hanging about.
And tips for folk getting into farming?
Tips for folk getting into farming. Honestly, there's so many opportunities at the moment. If you've got a bit of confidence and willing to actually just have a go at anything. I see a lot of people coming into farming at the moment that are very kind of standoffish, or they don't want to get their hands dirty. Honestly, just dive in and make the most of it, because there's so many opportunities. If you're keen, people will give you the chance, and if you're hardworking, you'll go a long way. So, yeah, if anybody wants to become a tractor driver, give me a shout.
Well, there you are. You've already got a job tractor driving. You might not be doing. It's okay. So it's always, everyone says that, jump in, and be confident. It's not as easy doing that at first, but believe us.
Yeah, the sooner you drop down your barriers and just go for it, the more people will respect you and give you a chance. So,
and if you do somehow do that and you come across someone that's not helpful, chances are the next one won't be. It's you'll find the right person, for sure. Colin, I hope you've enjoyed coming on. I hope you enjoyed being on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, Wallace.
Not at all. Is this your first time on a podcast?
It is, yeah. Feeling like I've made it in life now.
Well, you've done very well. It's been a long one as well, which is normally a good sign. So this has been number 57. Next week we head over to Minnesota with Andrea Sivitson Fleming, I believe her name is, but I think she just got married. So that's number 58. You may know her on Instagram as That Fit Advocate. That is so difficult to say, but I think I've got there correctly. She talks about her sort of mental health struggles, which is really interesting. We went really deep at one point talking about suicidal thoughts and stuff like that, and how farming has played a role in really finding her correct place and her happy place. So it's a really good story that she looked at becoming a vet. And we went into some things that are not legal here in the UK, but very much legal in the US, and not at all because they're illegal are they strictly bad. One being hormone implants, which we had a bit of a debate about. I didn't think I was for them. She told me some stuff that made a bit more sense. And GMO, which I'm going to say something that a lot of you guys listening might disagree with. I'm very much for it. But it's not legal here, but it is legal in the States. So we talked about that, which was really interesting. So we'll see you next week for that. And Colin, thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks, Wallace.
Well, that's it. Another R2Kast finished, another agricultural mind opened up. And I would just like to say that getting these guests on board, it does take time, and it always has done, but I've now went weekly, and with that comes even more time required. And I would just like to finally thank once more the Scottish Farmer for sponsoring the show and making that much more possible. Please be sure to get in touch if you've any ideas of people you'd like to see on the podcast, or maybe ideas you have for me presenting better, because I definitely do require that. See you in the next one.